Welcome everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your Master Coach today. And today we're going to be talking about the difference between communication and comprehension. Communication is one of those skills that many people today they don't have. We have decided to live in a world where everything is virtually based, where people will rather text than have a call. I don't know if you have ever been in a situation where someone is calling you and as soon as they are done calling you, you text them, "Hey, what do you need?" And it's not so much that you were busy, it's just that you feel more comfortable with a text as communication rather than a verbal communication. But just because communication is lacking today and communication is different than it was in the past, it doesn't necessarily mean communication is a bad thing. We can focus on what communication is today, and that can be just trying to get our point across. So if our opinion has to be communicated, if our emotions have to be communicated, and most people are able to do that. However, there are going to be some people who shut down. We will be talking about all the aspects of communication today, but then we also have to look at the other side of communication, and that's going to be comprehension. If you're able to comprehend, you're able to fully understand on not only the innate level, but even a deeper level. When we talked about the process of immersion, I talked about language a couple episodes back. The idea of immersion is saying that you immerse yourself in something so you can learn it. And when you are a person who's learning a language, for an example, you are going to be immersing yourself in that language. Now, in the beginning, you might be able to do some basic communication. Hi, how are you doing? Etc., etc. But comprehension doesn't come until you can fully understand the meaning, the reflection behind someone's words. So we have to learn, what is the difference between communication and comprehension? Is it something that we have to focus on? And the short answer is going to be yes. Because if you can communicate but you cannot comprehend, you will not be successful in life. If you can comprehend but you cannot communicate, you will also not be successful in life. You do have to have some basic level of each of the two. And I'm not saying that you have to be a master at communication and a master at comprehension, but you do have to understand the foundation and then understand it's a weak spot for you, because you can always fill in that role and give it to someone else, the power of delegation. And we're going to be talking about all that today. But before we do all that, let's take a look at my most recent blog, Communication versus Comprehension. All right, everyone, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share the video and our audio to help build a community of like-minded individuals. And today we're going to be talking about communication versus comprehension. We did give an intro on communication and comprehension, but I do want to talk about what this blog is going to be talking about, because if we understand what effective communication is, then you can understand, well, what would be a deeper sense of comprehension. And when we're looking at mindset, we're trying to dive deep into communication and comprehension. For example, my past group 3 episode of Coaching in Session that just came out, or recently came out, we had Giovanna Elias, who is a communications coach, and she focused primarily on communication. And she believes that communication is the heart be all of every person, because if you can communicate, then you can be successful. And if you can't communicate, then that's where many of the life issues come into play. And her and I, of course, have an individual episode that you can check out too, where she's talking about the connection code. She's talking about what people need to fully connect. And that is what communication is. How can I relate to somebody? If you start speaking with someone, for an example, you are going to learn, do you like this person or do you not like this person? And it's not so much of, I'm just talking to them. You are trying to understand them on a deeper level. Because if you just kind of say, oh, I like their voice and they're smiling and things like that, that might be positive communication for someone who doesn't know how to comprehend. But if you can think at a deep level, comprehension skills are going to show you that when you're trying to build a relationship, it is just as important as how well you can communicate. So communication is going to be all about talking about ideas. It could be about talking about feelings. It could be talking about what your day was like. You are just trying to relay something to someone and try to connect with them to create a deeper meaning. But then when we look at communication, in the sharing of information, we do have a breakdown because we have a system today where we look at the news. We are told what the news wants to tell us. So when we are getting communication via networking, social media, television, that communication might be faulty. So we do have to do our due diligence there. And we talk about that here in this blog. And we do talk about comprehension and how comprehension skills are going to help you understand how you can see what is ahead rather than just accepting what you are told. Communication is going to be that blanket surface level of what someone says, but comprehension is going to be, can you see the aftermath? And this blog dives deep into the different levels of comprehension and communication. What I will say is that it is a delightful read. It's a short read because it gets straight to the point. And in this episode, we are going to get straight to the point. And the point of communication and comprehension is not so much to simply communicate and share information. It's to look at the cause and the effect. I know we had episodes on this, and you might be thinking, well, how is communication relevant to cause and effect? Well, if I say something, and let's say it's very negative, I say, you're stupid. You're going to say, oh, wow, that hurt my feelings, maybe. Or you might say, I don't care. Whatever your response is, right? You're going to now associate me being mean or evil or toxic or whatever, right? If I say something positive, hey, you're doing great, right? Keep up the good work. You're fantastic. You look beautiful. You're going to say, oh, wow, that was good, healthy communication. So there is a difference between how we can communicate. But I can also tell you a lie. I can say, hey, I'm going to be able to pick you up Saturday so we can go out to the party, okay? Oh, yeah, great. I'm looking forward to it. Saturday comes and I don't communicate with you. And I go to the party, but you don't go to the party because you're waiting for me. So there is a lack of communication. And you can see how communication can be deliberately hurtful, negative. It could be deliberately positive, uplifting, and it could be deliberately passive. So all of those levels of communication are also intertwined between the minds of individuals. So men are going to think in a different way and women are going to think in a different way. Now, women can be more positive. Maybe they can be more negative when they're talking about other women, right? The cat fighting and the stuff like that. But they can also be passive. I find men to be more passive in communication than women. I believe women can be more positive and they can be more negative too. Men can be more negative, but I don't even think they realize that they're doing it most of the time. It's almost like they're just being true to themselves and they're not practicing the awareness of understanding that my words have weight and they can have impact on someone else's feelings or emotions. Now, we're not trying to tiptoe around this world and trying not to hurt people's feelings, right? That's a waste of time. If you hurt someone's feelings, oh well, move on. But if you're in a relationship that you want to cultivate, that you want to grow, that you want to make sure it stands the test of time, proper communication is going to be essential. So that means you're going to have to not be passive men. And you're going to have to learn how to understand your lady, understand your woman, and ask the questions that she needs to hear. Because sometimes when we're just passive, we miss out on an opportunity for good communication. So we might not be able to comprehend the full situation when she comes home and she's upset and she's saying that she's not happy and she's trying to do all these things and she might request something from you, a back rub, an outing, some food, etc. It all turns out that the communication on her level was just not effective enough to reach you. And this is where relationships struggle the most when it comes to communication, where you have one person just not able to communicate or unwilling to communicate their true intentions, their true feelings. Just recently, for example, my wife is extremely stressed, right? Probably like 3 months ago. She was just extremely stressed with school, the kid, family. She's just in an unhappy mood. And I told her, I was like, listen, like you're in an unhappy mood. What's going on? And then she was like, gave me the surface level stuff. I go, that's not it. And then she goes, okay, well, I think this is it. And then she goes even a little bit deeper. And I go, that could be the start of it. And then we talked about it because that is what communication is. I can see something is wrong. I hear what she thinks is wrong. And then I can comprehend and say, you know what? I don't believe what you're telling me is going to be congruent with how you're feeling, because it seems like you're just in a sense of burnout. And we do the work and we did the work and it's better now. But it's not something that can easily be, oh, you'll feel better. Oh, you'll get over it. Just sleep on it. Put some dirt on it. That level of comprehension, again, for men is passive. So we do have to make sure we understand that different levels of communication are for different levels of people. And everyone can level up a skill of comprehension. I do want to talk about that, and they can level up the skill of communication. Because if you are struggling at communication, the only thing you need to do is learn how to communicate. How do you learn how to communicate? By speaking to people. Yes, I'm talking about in person, on the phone, video call. Those are effective ways to communicate. Now, through an email, yes, it can help, but I think there's a level of comprehension that comes into play through emails, because I can send an email to one of my workers and I can say, hey, this work is not getting done. What are you doing? And they might say, oh, he's mad at me. He's yelling at me or something like that, because it could be construed as, you're not getting the work done. What are you doing? So however the person is feeling that day, they're going to actually take on that nature of emotion, so positive or negative. Now, if they're in a positive mood, they're going to say, oh, what are you doing? They're going to say, oh, I've just been so busy with everything else. I've been doing this project and this project, and they can give you a good solution for why they're not being able to do the project that maybe I'm looking at. And I say, oh, okay, well, not a problem, right? I didn't know you were doing all those other things. Keep doing the great work, right? But it could have been negative. What are you talking about? Like, I'm doing it right now. Like, I'm doing the best I can. I've just been so busy with everything, and they're taking a defensive role. Communication is different now. So we can be combative, we can be assertive, and we can be understanding when it comes to communication. But then there's that level of comprehension, right? That level of comprehension is always going to be there, where I have to be able to understand too, as the boss and got the workers and things like that. It's like, what do I do, right? Do I just not care about their emotions and their feelings? And do I not communicate with them? And do I just have high expectations and want results and drive results from people? I can do that. But we do have to see that when you're dealing with a person, whether they be in front of you or behind a screen or through your phone as you might be listening to this message, you are going to be starting a conversation with that person. Now, this conversation that you and I are having is going to be a bit one-sided, not on purpose, but this is a podcast and I'm speaking to you. And I want you to understand that there is a process for you to grow if you can learn these two skills effectively: how to communicate and how to comprehend. I wanted to get into the idea of the world and what we are being told, because we are told one thing and we are labeled another thing. For example, if you are in school and you're rambunctious, right? You're a boy, you typically have high energy. You're not going to want to sit and just be there and just do nothing, right? You want to go explore. You want to go be dangerous. You want to go jump off something. When you're there, you can't do that because that's a school setting and is not going to be helpful for learning. So communication at that point would be, I want to go play. You can't go play, right? The teacher is saying you can't go play. The kid doesn't understand why. The kid can't comprehend why, because they are being told that they can't do something that they want to do. So what happens at that point is that our level of comprehension is not developed yet, number one. But number two, now we're focused on what we can't do. We're focused on the limits. So our comprehension skill actually takes a hit there, because kids are going to be thinking, well, I can't do it, right? It's wrong. It's the wrong thing to do. And so they're going to be developed in that way of thinking throughout school. They understand in school they have to sit down, be quiet, and listen. Of course, they're going to pass notes. Maybe they're going to giggle. They're going to fool around. Sometimes they can't help it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the comprehension level is understanding, if you are a teacher, hey, I understand that you want to play. I want to play too. I want to go have fun, but we do have to learn this math today. We do have to learn this reading. We have to do this writing. And I know it might not be your most enjoyable thing in the day, but it's going to help you in the future. Can you understand that? Now, they might not be able to understand it, right? Like they might say, well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, right? Because their emotions, right, at that point are just a wall. And you can't communicate with someone who's highly emotional. As much as you want to communicate with them, as much as you are a skilled communicator, you cannot reason with a person who is highly emotional. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was a swim instructor, and when a student was not able to listen to me and I wasn't able to communicate with them, it was something that I learned from my boss at the time because I didn't really think about putting the kid underwater or something like that. Because typically if the kid's in the water with me, the kid can't swim. All right. So we're typically in the middle of the pool. The kid can't swim and they're just maybe yelling, they're screaming, they're not listening. And so only thing I do is I stop holding on to the kid. The kid has to hold on to me. Now, at that point, either they can go in the water and then I have to pick them up, or they can hold on to like my shoulder or my arm or something like that, right? But they have to actively engage and make sure that they're keeping their head above water. And so when that happens, they're more focused. So they're like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm trying to survive. The brain is an amazing thing, right? The brain wants to keep itself alive and is not going to be worrying as much if I'm going to be the life vest for them, if I'm going to be holding on to them and I'm going to be just saying, hey, cool, right? At some point, eventually they learn it. From there, you're able to hold them and you're able to work with them. You're able to go through with the swim lessons. But in the beginning, sometimes you might get kids that cry, kids that don't want to listen. But we are there to learn a skill. And how I teach that skill is through communication, number one, but then also by showing by example. And that's going to be another form of communication. I'm showing you what to do, right? Because you can have nonverbal communication and then they just have a understanding of what they have to do. So we can be communicators. We can be effective communicators. We just have to know how to do it. But then there's that level of comprehension. I can tell you how to swim all day long. I can tell you how to ride a bike all day long. But can you comprehend it? Can you gain that skill? And that is where we need more deliberate nature when it comes in our days. Most people are on a surface level of thinking, on a surface level of communication. They say, hey, how you doing? No, I'm doing fine. I'm doing well. Thank you. Right? When you start with that blanket statement, it actually nips communication in the bud. Because if I said something like really juicy, like, yeah, like my dog just ate a rat. And it's so crazy, right? Like your dog just ate a rat. Like where'd your dog find a rat, number one? And then you can have communication. Now, the person might be off-put saying, oh, that's pretty nasty. You're telling me the dog brought it into the living room. Oh my God. If my dog brought that into the living room, I would lose my mind. That is communication, right? We are getting into a deeper form of conversation. Instead of saying, well, how's your dog? My dog is doing well. Okay, that's good to hear. So we can get into deeper conversation. Now, comprehension is going to be one of those things that we have to be able to see the cause and effect to what we are saying, right? When we are talking about comprehension, on the other hand, when we're looking at the dog doing that thing, is going to be, now I'm thinking, I'm listening to this person. Do I want a dog? Do I want to deal with a dog getting a rat and bringing it into the living room? Probably not, right? So I'm comprehending what is being said, right? I'm hearing that their dog is doing this and I'm putting it in my mind. Do I want my dog to do that or do I want a dog to do that? And the best way to understand that is to know what is being said and then to put it into your life. Now, when we were told, this is going to be the last talking point, comprehension and communication, right? The news reporter tells you something on the news network that you listen to, and they say you have to do this, and you say, okay. There is no level of comprehension there. Now, if the news network tells you to do something, and you say, well, why? Why do I have to do that? Because if I do that, then I lose this. Now we're comprehending what's going on. Most people follow blindly. Most people don't know how to be active in the sense of thinking, right? Thinking on a deep level. So when you can think on that deep level, actually, it's going to be a superpower because now you're able to see things for what they truly are. You get to see, oh, well, I'm not really good at this. Let me give it to someone else who's going to be better or quicker because I can edit all day long. But then if I can get an editor to do it in half the time, or I can free up my hours so I can work with more clients, that's going to be a better use of my time. I comprehended the situation of there's only 24 hours in a day. I can't do everything. So I have to be an effective communicator so I can talk to people. I can tell them what I want, because the last thing you want to do is go to a restaurant, say something to the waiter, and the waiter brings out something different, right? Communication, right? The art of communication is going to be that I can say something to you and you can agree, but then when the dishes finally come out, you brought me the wrong dish. And it wasn't because you just brought the wrong dish by accident or the chef made the wrong thing. It's because you couldn't comprehend my order. Now, typically orders are self-explanatory, but if you put that into any aspect of life, a deep aspect, going into relationships, politics, health, you're going to find that communication and comprehension in each of those levels and each of those areas are going to be necessary for you to be more than what you are right now. Communication versus comprehension is going to be a conversation that is going to help you understand what is necessary in our fast-paced world. Because you might be thinking that a quick text or a quick email is going to be effective communication, but does that create comprehension? And if you can mix the two, you're going to find that you are going to be a better communicator. You're going to find that you're going to be a better boss. You're going to be a better wife or husband. You're going to be a better son or daughter or mother or father, whatever. And you're going to learn that to build healthy and strong relationships, you need to know these keys of communication and comprehension. Communication was something that I have always been interested in, but I have not always been the best communicator because it's something that you have to learn. Communication, I believe, comes first and then comprehension comes second. Now, you can be skilled at comprehension and just not be an effective communicator. But what I will tell you, if you are in that area or that mindset, is that you have just not found what type of communication works best for you. Because if you know what type of communication works good for you, works good for the people around you, then you're going to see that communication is going to be one of those things that you're not going to be worried about or stressed about, right? For the people who are doing public speaking or presentations, right? They're communicating with an audience and the audience has to comprehend what is being said. So there's going to be different levels. There's going to be different ways that we can speak. There's going to be different lingo and different terminologies that can be at the grade level or over the grade level, under the grade level of the audience that you're trying to speak with. Typically what I do here in Coaching in Session is that I communicate in a way that anyone at any age will be able to understand. Now, there might be some more adult episodes that are just geared at adults, so a kid won't be able to comprehend the conversation. For example, taxes. Kids don't know anything about taxes, right? Not yet. They can learn about them, but until they realize that they get a paycheck or they have to pay Uncle Sam some money and the taxes are taken out or they have to give tax money to the government, they're going to be able to say, oh, now I understand. Just like how you can read a book on riding a bike. Until you do the act, right? Then we can begin to comprehend. So communication and comprehension are going to be intertwined, and you do have to understand that you cannot have one effectively without the other. So I encourage you to learn how to be more effective in your communication, learn how to dive deeper so you can comprehend people, news, everything better. Because when you can start to inflect that into your life, you're going to start to see all the blind spots that you had start to get some light. And if you're having a hard time communicating or understanding, make sure to head over to revenconcepts.com, get yourself a consultation, get yourself some coaching, and begin the journey to be the best version of yourself today. That's going to include healthy communication and then a deep understanding and comprehension. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.